we'll probably cut this part out since nobody's on yet. But just starting a live here to talk about some of the OGL stuff. See what's going on. There's just a lot of speculation and things going on in the community with all the OGL stuff. And I just figured I guess it's about time I talk about it, because I really haven't said much publicly. So here we are. But before we get going, I just want to see how everybody's doing. I had a game today, played a little D&D, rolled some dice, played actually third-party D&D stuff because I was using pretty much all Cobalt Press material. So it was a fun day, though, because it was session 1 of a new campaign. We finished up our old campaign like back in the spring of last year, and life just got busy for everybody, and we haven't had a chance to play yet. We rolled up characters, but we hadn't played. So today was day 1 of playing, and we finally got to roll the dice. It was awesome. So it was a really good day. After the game, I took a nap, slept a little bit, and then I get up. I was like kind of checking to see if any new news dropped and all the OGL stuff. Nothing really has, but I also haven't really chimed in on it yet. So I figured I would take a look, see what's going on. And I was just like, I think I'm going to make a video. I hadn't really made a video. I was honestly, I was debating whether I wanted to do this at all. I was really thinking like, I'll hold out for the actual OGL to drop. So I think it's going to drop like Monday or something like that is my suspicion. If it's not, I'd be surprised if it doesn't come out by Monday or Tuesday. Because there's just so much happening. It's crazy because they're like, by now you've all heard about the leak, right? There was the article on Gizmodo about it. What's funny is what some people don't realize is I was watching Roll for Combat, which is another YouTube channel. They're pretty cool. They were doing a live, and they were talking about OGL stuff, and literally midstream, they had gotten an email from a source with a snippet of the OGL 1.1, and it was saying certain stuff. And then the next day, the Gizmodo article came out with the exact same stuff, but they had a lot more that they were working off of. Now, I want to say this because there's a lot of people like oh, it's unfair, blah, blah. We have not seen the copy, right? We know that it was sent out to certain third-party publishers. People have seen it. It just hasn't been made public. So it's out there. No one's leaked it to the public yet. So we cannot go and Google it and find a copy and look at it for ourselves. We are purely going off of alleged leaks. However, I do want to say that the leaks come from multiple credible sources to different people in the industry. So that does kind of lend some viability to this. This is not just a whim. Part of that article talks about Kickstarter and how you have to go to you have to go through Kickstarter, otherwise you have to pay a higher fee, things like that. Kickstarter came out and made a statement about it. So that part is true. So there are parts of this story that we can confirm. So even though we haven't seen the OGL, even though we don't know for sure, I think we can say, at least with a high certainty, that document that was leaked and that has been written about was real. Now, I don't think that's going to be the final document. Companies do this kind of crap where they're like, oh, what they'll purposely, they either purposely leaked it or it got leaked and they're fine with it, and when they saw the reaction they pulled back. But the thing is, and this is before any of the leaks, the OGL was supposed to drop on the 4th and it didn't. The leak did, though. So I think there might have been an intentional leak there, just to kind of gauge response. And I think they're going to dial it back. However, I don't think they're going to dial it back enough. Yeah. So Christopher Cubley says it was leaked to test the waters. Exactly. It was leaked to test the waters, but that's not the only reason, right? Because they knew. I mean, you can't. They're not that dumb that they're like, oh, I wonder if people will be okay with this. No way are people okay with this. But what they can do now is dial it back 20% and be like, we're listening to you, everybody. And it's still going to be a terrible deal. But by dialing a little bit back, turning down the royalties or whatever, they can make it look like they're listening to us. But you know what? It's not the money, although the money thing bothers me, and it's not 1D&D. Like, I've seen some of the rule changes. I'm cool with a lot of them. That's fine. The part that kind of grinds my gears, to quote Peter from Family Guy, is the fact that they can just steal people's work. That's not cool. Because it's like, I don't know, man. They're like, oh, you get to maintain your ownership, but we just get a perpetual, unrevocable license. They're like, we're revoking your license, and we're making you have a unrevocable license that we get to take your stuff. No, like, that's just wrong. That's blatantly wrong. And I'm just not cool with it. And then the other part that I don't like is the whole VTT thing. And I saw the writing on the wall in the VTT thing the day they released that video, when they did that big, celebrating D&D, here's the future. And, I was just worried about it. I was like, are they going to cut Roll20? Are they going to cut fantasy rounds? Are they going to cut out everybody else and just corner the market? Is that a thing they're going to do? And it looks like it is. I don't know if they're going to cut out Roll20. They said, we have deals in place with them. Maybe they'll let them continue to use 5e, but maybe they won't let them use 1D&D. I don't know. It's questionable. Chris Cubley says some of the other commentators brought up how similar it is to the GSL for 4e. A lot of the language is similar. It is. I mean, yeah, this is not. First off, this is not an open gaming license. By definition, it's not an open gaming license. It is much more a GSL 2.0. Bill says the free acquisitions of third-party IPs. Oh yeah, it is definitely the biggest problem. That by far, it is the biggest problem. Warren says, so this is the same as making a rule as DMs can't crit. Let's say something crazy and see how much people push back. I feel like it goes beyond crazy, though, right? I feel like it goes to a next level of crazy. Because no one's going to agree. Now, here's the thing. When 4E came out and the GSL came out, third-party publishers simply said, nah, and they just kept publishing 3.5. Pathfinder came about. People published Pathfinder stuff. Most of our favorite third-party publishers, Kobold Press, AAW Games, like all these companies, right, Frog God, these guys all just published Pathfinder in 3.5, and that was fine. That was cool. And then all the systems like Pathfinder that sprung up, and tons of other systems that have sprung up throughout time, including the 5e era, that all rely on the OGL. So all these systems can be affected by this potentially. But what they did with this one is they said that, by the way, so I'm gonna kind of go pretty technical on language here, because I see stuff like people saying, they're going to revoke the license. It's weird because we've got a lot of different terms, right? We have the term perpetual, meaning that there's no end in sight for the license, right? We're just assuming that the license is going, there's no expiration. You can use it and there's no expiration on it. Then there's revocable. And some lawyers, and I could pull up some articles, I have them here. Some lawyers say that perpetual and revocable are exclusive. Something can be perpetual and still be revocable. And if you don't exclusively say that it's not revocable, it is inherently revocable. Now, another lawyer said, no, that's not the case. So, totally up for debate. Let the courts decide that part. However, they did not say they're revoking the license. They're saying they're deauthorizing it. So, if you read the original OGL, it says that we can make changes to it, and but you may use any authorized version of the OGL, meaning previous versions. If we make a little revision, if we make a little tweak, and you don't like it, just use the old one. That's fine. What they're saying here is the old one is no longer authorized. Does that mean it's revoked? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Because to me, like, all of the old material you've written on under it, you can't take that away, right? We had a deal in place when you made that stuff. We both followed the terms of that deal. So in my mind, they can't say, "Hey, Kobold Press, we own Tomb of Beasts now," or "Hey Rise," or "Hey AW, we own Rise of the Drow now." No, because when we made that product, it was under different terms. So I don't think they can go back and steal that. What they can do is what they did in 4E, which is to say, agree to this license, and by agreeing to this license, you agree that you no longer can use the old license. That's allowed, and that's fine. If somebody wants to sign up for that BS, that's on them. But they cannot just wave a magic wand and tell the entire world, you, because we wrote a document, you now automatically agree to it, and you no longer can use the old one. It doesn't work that way. Let's see here. Chris says the original OGL from 3E said that there's a clause about updating the wording, and I don't know what happened there. Chris says it can help them go after Piazza. Yeah, it can help them go after Piazza, but again, I don't see Piazza. I don't see third-party publishers and even direct competitors like Piazza really being bad for D&D, because what's funny is I know people who came in playing Pathfinder and switched to 5th edition. They liked it better. Sure, some people come in 5th edition, it's the gateway game, and go on to play Pathfinder, but most of those people also play 5th edition. I taken Pathfinder adventures and converted them to 5th edition for my table. Like, just having a variety of material out there is good. Like, you see all my third-party stuff here. This shelf right here is all, like, at least a lot of it. I've got several shelves of official Wizards of the Coast books. I buy both. But I like third-party stuff. I mean, my whole channel, right, my whole thing is third-party D&D. Let me know if I'm too loud, by the way. I've been tweaking my mic a little. I keep seeing it spike into the red. So I just don't see how what the current arrangement could be bad for Wizards of the Coast. They made $1 billion last year, and they come out and say we're under monetized. I'm sorry, man. Like, I mean, I work for a big corporation as my day job, and I get it, stockholders and all that stuff. But the company's in its golden age right now. Why would you ruin that? It just doesn't make sense. So we got a few more viewers now. So let's break it down. I'm gonna step back here, break it down. So OGL, basically the short version is it's a short little document. I can probably grab any one of these books off my shelf, open up to the back page, and you're going to see it in there. It just says you can create products using the SRD, the System Reference Document for 5th edition, or the core 3rd edition 3.5 rules, and make stuff. You just can't use everything, right? So what's in the player's handbook, there's certain spells in the player's handbook, certain subclasses, backgrounds that you can't use. You know, there's certain monsters like beholders and mind flayers that you can't use. But everything else that's in that SRD you can use. You don't really need an OGL, right? You can't copyright game mechanics, so they can basically say, you know, like, you can't copyright a dice roll. You probably can't copyright hit points or armor class because, you know, what is Blizzard not allowed to use armor class anymore, or armor for their game? You know, you can't copyright paladin. So there's a lot of stuff you can't copyright, right? But there are certain things they can, but technically, we could write a system. So, you know, a bunch of people can come together and they can write a system that mirrors 5th edition, changes certain terminology and things, and put that book out with an OGL. We can just keep going. I mean, technically, we could do that. I'm sure Wizards would come after you and try to fight it, but they might lose. Like, I was at Goodwill the other day. I always go through Goodwill. I'm checking for, like, any cool board games. And there was this game that was a total Monopoly knockoff. But it wasn't Monopoly. It didn't say, it wasn't like, you know, Dungeons & Dragons Monopoly or you know, Stranger Things Monopoly. It was something that had some other name, but it was basically Monopoly. Same mechanics, different names, and it's fine. So you can totally do that. Chris says the microtransaction nature of EA. Yeah, exactly. Right? They're going for the microtransaction things that we see in video games now. That's for sure. And you know what? I don't like it, but I don't care. Because I just won't do it, right? I could stick playing 5e. We can stick creating 5e. The problem is the OGL. Bill says we, Pacesetter Games, can continue to sell all previously released material under 1.0a, but will not be able to produce new material. Signing 1.1 doesn't give them that IP unless we go 1.1 with those. Yeah, right. So I agree, Bill. But are you allowed to? Here's a question I have. Right. What if you want to make a new printing of your book? You found some errors in the book, you update them, stuff like that, and then you release a new book. Not a new book, the same book, but with corrections. You've made changes to the material in some minor capacity. Does that affect it? I don't know. I would hope not, but I'm not sure. So essentially, right, the OGL lets us create stuff, and technically we might not need the OGL, but we have to be careful there. But like I said, like Pathfinder might not be able to keep producing new stuff. Who knows? Here's something funny, by the way. What was it that I saw? Oh man, I think it was like a Star Wars something. Knights of the Old Republic. Remember the Knights of the Old Republic video game? Like the best RPG video game of all times? Yeah, that's produced using the OGL. They're updating it, recreating it, and going to release it. Does that mean that Wizards is going to take Star Wars from Disney? I don't think so. I mean, sure, Hasbro's big, but you're not Disney big. So that's kind of funny. So Bill says if he makes it, just minor change, if he fixes the spelling of a word in his book, or changes any minor thing about his book to re-release it, he has to do it under 1.1, and he'll give up the rights to his product. That's messed up. How do you do that? I don't know. Did they cancel that project, the Knights of the Old Republic project? That sucks. That's such a good game. That's such a good game. You know what I loved was Neverwinter Nights. The original Neverwinter Nights, I played the hell out of that game. I absolutely loved that game. That was literally most of my exposure to third edition D&D. I didn't play a lot of third edition D&D. I kind of went from AD&D second edition, and then played a lot of third edition video games, and then kind of missed fourth edition because of World of Warcraft, and then came back in fifth edition. So new Knights of the Old Republic got canned because it wasn't going in the direction at what direction? It's a game that's already been created. All they have to do is upgrade the engine. The Ubisoft open world game is still going forward. Okay, well, we'll see. I'm kind of curious about all the video games. Right, we heard that Wizards of the Coast canceled a bunch of D&D based video games, and Margaret Weiss from Dragonlance, the creator, she said that she had heard rumors that there was a Dragonlance game in the works. So if that's true, maybe that was one of the canceled games, which makes me even sadder. So 1.1 details never get released. It's a lot of rumors, right? So let's see, 1.1. So here's the article that we saw. You guys have all read it by now. I'm not gonna go through it. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and rehash something that every other YouTuber has already done, even though I am. This is another thing, though, right? So the 750 thing, right? So I see a lot of people that go like, oh, whatever, so that's so much money. If you make 750, you should give Hasbro a cut. Maybe. I guess I can kind of get on board with that. Not a 20 or 25% cut. Let's say that Bill here, that's on our watching our stream right now, does a Kickstarter, and his company, Pacesetter's, somewhat newer. I've done some reviews on some of their stuff, and they just crush it. And they were thinking, we'll make like 150 grand, maybe. Like if we're lucky, we'll set a $100,000 goal, and if we're lucky, we'll make 150, 200,000. And they just crush it, and they make 750. Okay, now suddenly we fall into that bucket. Now here's the thing that they said is, they're not going to take 20% of your 750. They're going to take 20% of anything that goes over that. So let's say Bill makes 800,000. He has to give them 20% of that 50,000. Now, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you've personally done a Kickstarter, but I know you guys have worked with other people who have. Generally, your margin on a Kickstarter is what? Maybe 15% of the overall gross. And with the way paper prices and shipping and everything is now, it could be they take 20% of that extra money, you could look at going into the red on a Kickstarter, right? I mean, that could happen. So that is all kind of scary for publishers. Like, do we do a Kickstarter? Do they maybe release fewer products that they don't want to fall into that? But then here's the thing. So I wondered, right, when we saw the article from them, I'm going to pull these out. I forgot, I'm not sharing my screen right now. Let me share my screen. When we look at these articles, right? So here's the article from that they posted, right, back in December. They talk about the $50,000 thing, right? Where if you make over $50,000, you have to report it. Why? I was like, are you guys the IRS now? I'll tell you why. They want to know how much people are making on products so they can lower that $750,000 threshold. So maybe Bill here is consistently making $500,000. So they go, you know what? We're going to lower it to $500,000. Like, we see a lot of creators in this range. They want to look at how many creators are making how much and maximize their profits. They can change that 750 to anything they want at any time. So yes, 750 is a lot, but is 500? Is 200? We're talking gross. We're not talking profit. We're not talking that, Bill here took home to the bank $750,000 in a year. We're talking that they brought in a gross amount of money of $750 before expenses, before publishing, before paper, before distribution, before advertising, before all of that stuff. That's where they want their money from. That's not right. All right, let's check comments here. So let's see. Bill says, we've done about 12. No one can take 20% hit. It's an insane royalty agreement. We started in 2008, but only started using Kickstarter about 6 years ago. Right. So that's the thing, right? Is that's an insane thing, right? And again, it's off the top, right? So even if you go into it can cause you, even if you lost money, right? You did your Kickstarter, and then stuff comes out. Like, look at what's his name? MCDM, right? What's his name? Matt. I'm brain farting right now, but he had a whole bunch of problems with one of those Kickstarters. I don't think he lost money. He made a lot of money in that Kickstarter, but again, tight margins. He had to do a whole series of reprints because of bad pages, all sorts of issues. Right? You take 20% off the top. There's no way he made money. And even if he, let's say, because of all those problems, even without 20%, he went in the red. Thank you, Matt Covell. Even if he might have gone in the red before that 20%, and he still has to pay them that. So, I mean, it could bankrupt people. Like, where does that money come from? If, I don't think Bill's got $20,000 laying around that he can give to Wizards of the Coast if he breaks even on a Kickstarter. It just, So, yeah, it's weird. I don't know. So there's a lot of things here. Like, when this came out, right, I remember sitting there reading this, and I'm like, will one D&D include an SRD and OGL? Yes. I was like, oh, thank God. Because my whole thing, and Michael Pinkston is in chat right now, and he'll tell you, because me and him chat on the side a lot. Thank you. I told you I got this for Christmas. I was worried about it, a while ago, right? Like, I was saying how, if there's going to be an open gaming license, why haven't they said it yet? I was like, because there's probably not going to be one, or there's going to be something wrong with it. Like, I saw the writing on the wall all the way back when Wizards of the Coast did that whole video series. And I was like, I'm worried because they're not saying anything. I remember looking at Twitter. I think I even tweeted at them saying, like, hey, what's up with the OGL? And they were just silent on it. And that's not a good sign. And they come out like, oh, there is an OGL and SRD. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I read the next line. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, NFTs? Like, who's going to make D&D NFTs? And even if they did, I don't think it's going to be a very big market. But then I got to the part about VTTs, and that affects me directly because I, as a side job, do Foundry virtual tabletop conversions of, published material. I've done stuff for AAW games. I'm working on one right now. I did Kobold Press's Creature Codex, and I had plans to do more of their products. So now what, right? So I don't know. Open D&D state attorney generals have in the past taken action against Hasbro for this exact issue. Yeah, I'm sure. Here's the thing, right? In the end, let's just first off, like I said before, some of you hopped on, I said I don't think that this is going to be the final version of the OGL. I think that they put it out there purposely so that they could dial it back and say, well, look, we're listening to you, but it's still a sucky deal. So I think that I think Monday, Tuesday, I think we'll finally see an OGL that is not the one that leaked out. Two things are going to happen. One, like I said, it's going to be dialed back and not as bad, but still bad. And two, all the people who are saying that everybody is just, speculating and worrying over nothing, are going to go, see, it's not as bad. That wasn't even a real document. It's a real document. It's a version of a document. I'm sure that the one out there that people are talking about is real. I just don't think it was the final one. So, anyways, that's going to happen. But eventually it's going to go, it'll have to go to court, right? But what could happen is, as we know, court litigations, all this stuff could take months. And if, Pacesetter and Cola Press and AAW and Nord and all these guys get cease and desists, they have to stop working. Like, they can't work until the case is resolved. So if that is your business, if that is your primary or only source of income, what happens to you then? Because I do think that ultimately that Hasbro and Wizards will lose the case. There's just no way I can see them winning the case. Things like this generally favor a more liberal view of the contract, right? They wrote the contract. Wizards of the Coast wrote the contract. The community did not have any input. They wrote it and they put it out. So it was a one-sided contract writing. So in that kind of case, it generally favors the other side, being us, over the contract writer in a court litigation. And generally it's going to go with the more liberal interpretation of it. There's a lot of stuff you can read about this. Go watch the Rules Lawyers YouTube. You can look at this guy right here. This is Noah, my lawyer friend, kind of did a little bit of a breakdown talking about revocable and stuff like that. This is definitely worth a look. Ryan Dancy, who is the original guy who created the OGL, or like brainchild the OGL, says he doesn't even think that they could do this. So there's a lot of different takes on it. But I think ultimately, they lose the case. But what happens in the year or 18 months it takes to get there, because a smart company, right, is going to sit there and just drag it out as much as they can and appeal and all this stuff and make it take as long as they can, because they can just drain everybody dry. And lawyers are expensive. And, if the defendants, or the I shouldn't say defendants, if the plaintiffs run out of money to pay for all this, what do? So, I'm hoping that there's a really good lawyer who is passionate about this and takes it up pro bono, because I mean that's part of the problem. Mike says, unfortunately, when I've said stuff in Facebook, I'm fear-mongering. Yeah, people are like, quit fear-mongering, quit this. I don't think the sky. Let me say this right now: the sky's not falling yet. There's cracks forming. Should we panic? I made the title of my stream here. Is it time to panic? I got a little clickbaity. I'm sorry. No, it's not. It's not time to panic. It's time to worry. But it's not time to panic yet. We'll see. Then Mike said, if the community at large would band together and stop buying all WotC products, we can get almost what we want. And Open D&D says, so the NFT is way too punk, Witch of the Coast. I have 1,000 plus PDFs. I know how I could make them all free forever, and WotC has no one to sue. Haha. You're on point, by the way. Mike says, I don't fault Witch of the Coast for wanting a taste of the pie, but damn, that's a lot of pie. So yeah, and Ryan's words are powerful. Thank you. Yeah, Ryan's words are powerful. Plus, there's the whole FAQ that Wizards released. Now, a lot of people refer to this FAQ. We can see it here if I scroll. However, keep this in mind. An FAQ is not a legal document. It does show intent, though, as does the last 22 years of how business operated shows intent. At this point, it's hard for WotC to say, oh, we never meant for you to do that. Well, it's been going on for, how long have virtual tabletops been around? How long have video games been around? You can't say it wasn't the intent when it clearly was. So there's that. So ultimately, right? Ultimately, they lose the case. I can't see any other way of that happening other than they drain us dry. And in the meantime, what do all of our publishers do? Well, they can't publish. I mean, that's their livelihood. That's how they pay the mortgage. That's how they feed their families. What happens to these people? And let's not. All right, cool. Publishers. I mentioned publishers. Then there's guys like me who, get hired by publishers to do work. There's the writers that get hired to do the writing. There's all the artists that get hired to do the art for all these books. You think WotC's going to hire every artist out there? No. So this affects a trickle-down effect. All the people this affects, an entire industry is affected. So that, yeah, people. I mean, people should be, I think, worried. Now, let's see. I think that if WotC does two things, I think they can dial this back quite a bit. Or three. I want to say three things. They have to do three things. One, they have to take out the whole language about unauthorizing the old one. We need to be able to still operate under the old one. Two, I think they need to dial back the royalties and put a fixed limit. They have to take out that language about how they can change that. It has to be fixed. We have to know what we're getting into. So they have to take out the language too, I guess, about changing it at any time. They have to keep the language that says you can use a previous license. Like that has to stay in there. And then three, they have to take out the language about getting a perpetual, unrevocable license to use your material forever for free. Like, no. I think if they took those three things out, right, and now we have to go on and agree to 1.1, which they said we would have to do. They said we'd have to go on and agree to it. So if we agree to it, they can say you can no longer use 1.0. Fine. That's a fair deal. I don't like it, but it's a fair deal. But then publishers can make the decision. Do I want to publish under 1D&D or do I want to keep doing 5e? And I think that if they're gonna take money stuff, I mean, people are gonna stick with 5e. Now they could. The best thing they could do is just say, yeah, keep doing here's the 1D&D SRD, and the OGL covers it now, like the 1.0 covers it, and we just keep going about our merry way, and everybody wins. I mean, they're not going to make that much money off this third party thing. That's the other thing that really kind of baffles me in the grand scheme of things, right? In the grand scheme of how much money they make, this is going to be a pittance. Like they are not going to make a lot of money. Yeah, I don't like the idea that third-party IP, that WotC is taking third-party IP and then just revoking their license. Yeah, it's messed up. And 1DD says, when Hasbro lost in court on this same issue before, it was identical commissions. So there is a premise on a ruling by a judge. Yeah. So like I said, I don't think they'll win, but I think they can drag it out and make it take a long time and just hurt everybody. So there's that, right? So what do we do? Well, so, Mike said earlier about the community banding together, and here's the problem. I don't think the average player knows about this, right? My players were over at my house today. I had my game today. They're like, so what's going on? Like, they don't know. One of them's like, and she's studying law. She's like, I think people are going to play what they want to play and what's convenient. And I'm like, you're right. I'm like, if I go to my local game store to get a game and everybody's playing 1D&D, or we'll call it 6th edition, whatever, then what am I going to do? I'm going to play, right? If the school club is using the new edition, that's what we're going to play, and then you start kind of getting forced into it, right? Go find a 4th edition. If 4th edition is your jam, go ahead, go find your 4th edition group and play it. Good luck with that, right? If you're not a Pathfinder fan, but you're a 3.5 fan, go play it. Go play Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I'm not saying there's not groups out there. I'm saying they're really hard to find. 5e is what you're generally going to find. So if everybody adapts the new system, or the greater masses do, that's a problem. Now, third-party publishers could certainly band together, and some of them are. I'll tell you who I want to take a stand is the guys over at Critical Role. I'd love to see them come out. Now, I know Mercer, I guess, has liked some tweets that, are, against the OGL and stuff, but will they come out and just say, we're not doing it. We're going to switch to a different system or whatever. We don't want any part of this. I don't think so, man. I want to believe that they're going to come out and do the right thing here. But we're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about millions of dollars in there for them. They might get a royalty-free deal or very like 5% royalty or something small to keep it going, and then Wizards will even, help them, like give them free stuff. Who knows? What I feel like they're probably going to get a sweet deal because they need them. The thing is, if they come out and say, we're not going to do this, whether you're a Critical Role fan or not, whether you love them or hate them, they've got a huge, huge, huge fan base. And that fan base is loyal and will follow them. And if they come out against it, if they make a statement, I think that might have the power to perpetuate through a very large part of the community. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who plays D&D is a critter by any means, but let's face it, it's big. So I think that them coming out could be a really big thing. I also don't like that some of the bigger publishers have not really said anything, because they're the ones who are most affected. And I get it. They're the ones who are most affected. They're the ones who need to negotiate better deals and stuff like that. But I hope that they come out and just are like, no, F that. Because, they're the ones who are going to be most impactful. Our Kobold presses, our NDCMs, our Critical Roles, the big dogs. Was it Green Ronin? Which I believe Green Ronin basically said, we're just going to keep doing 5e. But I also think they made that statement before the leak, so I don't know. Let's go back to comments here. Let's see. Mike says, when the stuff, how did they not see that? 100% agree, man. 100% agree with you on that. Like, it is... by the way, am I cutting in and out? Like, I keep seeing like my thing saying disconnected, reconnected. So I'm sorry if I'm cutting out. But I 100% agree. Like, I mostly use third-party material, but I use the 5e materials to supplement it. I have almost every 5e adventure book. I don't always run the campaigns, but sometimes they open up. I'm like, this is a cool encounter. This is a cool map. I like this thing. I want to use it. So and like I said, me and Michael Pinkston in here, we talk a lot, and I'll tell him, I'm like, I steal stuff from those books all the time and put them in my games. Like, I like to borrow from them, even if I don't run the whole campaign. There might be a chapter that's cool. Tome of Annihilation has some great stuff in it that I tell people all the time. You should use this in your game. It's a cool mechanic, or it's a cool dungeon. There's so many cool things in Chult that you can just take and throw into a game in a jungle setting and use just little mini dungeons. It's awesome. Let's see. Hasbro. So Chris says, Hasbro had the idea probably that they can corner Critical Role and all their content, or Piazzo, someone that has a decent piece of the pie that they would have money if OGL, or they wouldn't have money if OGL didn't exist. Yeah. So like I said, I can't see them attacking Critical Role. That would be extraordinarily dumb if they attacked Critical Role. My guess is they went to them a long time ago and it's like, hey, stuff coming down the pipe, we want to work a deal with you guys. Like, I can't imagine Critical Role getting just, sideswiped by all this like the rest of us are. Like, there's no way. Piazzo, however, yeah, like, I mean, I think it's a direct attack on Piazzo. Now, there was also the language in there about revoking it for like reasons like races and stuff like that. That, I think, is an attack on the new TSR company. They put out some really morally questionable stuff and made some really questionable statements, and I kind of get that. But at the same time, the language leaves it open to revoke it for anything. Like, they don't give specific things, right? They don't throw out exact stuff. They just say, racist, bigoted, stuff like that. How do I address it? They basically say we get to determine what that is. So, It's like they can basically just say anything. And by the way, it doesn't say exclusively the reason. That's an example of a reason they can revoke it. So they could just revoke it for any reason, and that's the problem. They could just say that we don't like this. Oh, you wrote a setting that is, like I said, I understand wanting to maybe protect the brand, but you got to get more specific. You cannot leave it that general. But 5e's expanse only happens because of their revision from failures of 4e. CR started on Pathfinder. Exactly. CR started on Pathfinder. They would probably still be playing Pathfinder, honestly, if they didn't come onto Twitch and all that stuff back in the day. I think they probably would have stuck with Pathfinder. But some third-party material is far better than anything Wizards of the Coast has come out with in recent years. Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I my current campaign that I'm running is a Kobold Press setting campaign. I was using Prepared 2 today. We ran Dibs Wagon of Doom was like kind of our first encounter of the new campaign. I'm just piecing together like one shots from them, mixed in with my own homebrew, set in that world. It's going to be a blast. I'm so excited about this current campaign. But yeah, I mean, and then one of my favorite publishers is Nord. I love their stuff. A lot of their stuff is actually system agnostic, which is great because it doesn't use the OGL. So that's good for them, but some of their stuff is not. But man, their books are so good. And, I mean, like Spectacular Settlements has got to be like absolutely one of my favorite all-time books. So yeah, I agree. Third-party stuff, way better. Let's see here. But 5e's expanse only happened because their revisions from failures. Yeah, we read that one. Let's see. Antitrust lawsuits by Attorney General start at 100 million in fines. Yeah, but will that happen? Like, I don't know. I would hope so. And does it have to happen in New York or in Washington, whatever state the license is based out of? I don't know. And will they do that? Who knows? Not necessarily look at the writers of Dragonlance and WizKids lawsuit. Are those two separate lawsuits? I remember the Dragonlance one, right, where they tried to revoke the books, and they're like, "We already wrote these books." Blah blah blah. I didn't know about the WizKids lawsuit. Maybe you can fill me in on that one. Yeah, again, that whole Dragonlance debacle. I think that was a Hasbro thing, not a WotC thing. I'm glad that got resolved because I love Dragonlance, and I got to meet Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss at Gen Con last year, which was like awesome. Like, meeting your heroes is super cool. Like, they're the reason. Like, Dragonlance is the reason I'm here. Like, that's what got me into all of this. So, I'm such a Dragonlance fan. I've got tons. I probably have 100 Dragonlance novels on the shelf behind me. I love Dragonlance. Let's see here. I'm going to switch back out of here. We're not using the screen share here. Here we go. So, let's see. People have short-term memories. 20 years ago might as well have been 200 years ago, right? Yeah, I mean, let's face it. This is the greed move. I think they think that they're too big to fail now. Are they? Maybe. But they're not too big to have to obey the law. Like, if we learned anything this past several years, it's that everybody's subject to the law. So everyone just look at your shelf, and if you count up your books, what's on your shelf? I'm at 350 in WotC and around 900 in third party. I'd rather not do that because it's a lot more money than that. I also have every one of the 5th edition limited edition covers, including the Volos and the Xanathars, which I bought all of them when they came out, except for Volos and Xanathars, which I paid too much money for. But I had them all. I also have a lot of 2nd edition. I have every one of the 1st edition hardcovers. I've got a bunch of 2nd edition stuff. There's no way you can own all the 2nd edition. It's insane. And then I've got all the WotC books, and I've got pretty much almost every Kobold Press book. I got all my AAW books. I have all the Nord books. I've got a good, several of the Necromancer / Frog God books. You can see all my stuff behind me. I got a ton of stuff. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Yeah, that TSR stuff is trying to that. Yeah, that TSR stuff is trying to make a Satanic Panic style response just from different people. Yeah, if you do not agree with something, and if they think it makes them look bad, kind of deal. Which is weird because they're still seeing Oriental Adventures online. Oh yeah, they're still selling it. Good point. They're still selling Oriental Adventures online. Like you can go pick that up on like DM's Guild as a PDF or something. So yeah, good, very good point. I've got $500 in WotC books and third party books about $2,200. Yeah, so imagine what I have, Mike. Um, Go Cobalt Press. My group loves Southlands. Yeah, I haven't been down into the Southlands yet. No, one of my players is from there, or one of one of my players' characters is from there. I did a play test. Forge new Dragonlance on Mount Celestial. So fun. You know what I reviewed this week, and it's probably gonna be the last time I do a DM skill product, honestly, because I'm that mad at WotC. Is I reviewed Tasselhoff's Pouches of Everything, because that book was written by the guys at Dragonlance Nexus, who had, I think the first version was a free PDF. The new revised version is up on DM's Guild, but man, it's a good book. Like if you want to play Dragonlance in 5e, you have to have that book. It is so well done. It is a Dragonlance core book made by Dragonlance fans, and it is fantastic. Definitely recommend it if you're playing Dragonlance. Oh, my foot's falling asleep. Um, so what else? So I think that we'll see it this week. I think we'll see the OGL this week. Is my guess. Like, because originally, right, it was supposed to drop on the 4th, and this is another thing, by the way, right? Everyone's like, don't panic. Here's the deal. What point do you panic? Because that thing was supposed to drop on the 4th with an activation date of the 13th. They're gonna give you a week to get all your ducks in a row and sign it. No, like that's insane. Like, yeah, I mean, I know a couple publishers are like, I'm not worried about it. They can't do it. I'm like, I agree they can't, but they can certainly try. This is Dungeons and Dragons, right? What do we say? You can certainly try. And they are certainly going to try. And in the meantime, what are you going to do? What, by the way, I don't know if I still have Bill from Pacesetter in here, but what about like a project that you've already kickstarted that's already being done that maybe is already at the printer but hasn't come out to the public yet? Does that fall under 1.0 or does that fall under 1.1? Like, what does everybody do that already has a Kickstarter? Not to mention all of us fans who have put money into that Kickstarter. I don't know. Will I never see my Kickstarters that I back now because they're not, legally not allowed to release it? Is this going to kill Roll20? I know WotC is working on their own VTT. I'm mad because that's where I bought all my D&D books. Yeah, that's according to that. You can certainly try. I don't worry because I plan on completing the Washington AG a month ago. Yes, current Kickstarter. Oh my God. Okay. So, Nick, to answer your question, I don't know. Because they said if we go back here, let me go back to my screen share. If we go back to this, right? They said, will this affect D&D content and services players use today? It shouldn't. The top VTT platforms already have custom agreements with Wizards. Do what they do. What does that mean? Well, the only two VTTs that have that agreement is Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, right? Foundry, Shard, Owlbear Rodeo, they all just work off of the SRD. You cannot buy content on those. You can't buy Wizards content. You can't buy a player's handbook in there or DM's guide or a monster manual. You can enter it yourself, which a lot of people do, but you can't buy it, right? They can't distribute and profit off of it. The thing is, hypothetically here, if they get away with murder, which they're trying to do, in place to keep doing what they're doing with 5e. I don't know if my guess is maybe they'll let them keep doing 5e, but not 1D&D so that they can corner that market. Does that become a monopoly, by the way? Like, I don't know, because it's a game, right? It's not like Sony could publish World of Warcraft. And does Blizzard have a monopoly on World of Warcraft? I don't know. So who knows? Can they get away with the whole virtual tabletop corner of the market thing? Perhaps. I think it's super crappy because I've got a lot invested into Foundry. So, yeah, not only do I have a lot of products invested in Foundry, I create Foundry content. Um, I don't worry because I placed a complaint to the Washington AG a month ago. Yes, current Kickstarters. Oh my God. You could argue after original OGL that it became a vehicle platform in of itself. Yeah, there's plenty of arguments to be made. There's no doubt. And like I said, if this is the route they go, and it goes to court, ultimately they got to lose. I just can't see them winning. All I could see them doing is settlements or running the clock until the plaintiffs are out of money. Antitrust, no monopoly, antitrust. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like I said, there. Let's see what happens on Monday. Honestly, I know, like I saw Nerdarchy, for instance. I love those guys. They put out a statement saying like we're in the wait and see camp. Like we're not gonna say anything yet. I don't blame them. Like I got friends who are publishers and they're just like I'm just gonna wait, man. Like but I just worry that when it does come out, there's not going to be a whole lot of time, right? It's like if we don't start reacting, I think that just this, having you guys on here chatting about it, me being out here, all these other content creators, YouTubers, people on TikTok, people on Twitter talking about it and raising their concerns is good because we're giving them feedback saying we won't stand for this, and that may make a difference. It really could make a difference. So maybe we're overreacting, maybe but here's the thing: if we gave no reaction, if we just sat back and said nothing, why would they change it? Like they would say, oh, we can get away with that, cool, let's do it. So maybe a little overreaction is a good thing because they're seeing that people won't stand for it. And I feel like doing this and what all other content creators are doing is making a difference, if that makes sense. I think it does. I don't know. It's been a long day. I got 4 hours of sleep, and then I had to get up early to take my parents to the airport, and then I had to run a D&D game today. So yeah, it's been a long day. I think on Monday, when Washington and Rhode Island public officials get notified, things can change by Friday the 13th. Yes. Is it Rhode Island? Yeah, I think you're right. I think I heard something about Rhode Island. Isn't something in New York too, or no? Am I off on that one? I thought there was something in New York. Man, there's just so much information out there. I drive my parents to the airport this morning, and they don't know anything about D&D. They just know that it's my thing, and they're like, "So what's going on? Like, I heard you had a bad week." I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you." And I just basically ranted for 40 minutes on the car ride to the airport. How did my game go? My game went really good. I wish we got a little further. We really didn't. We got basically one good encounter in and got to a decent stopping point. It's so hard with 6 players, and then they haven't seen each other in a while, so they keep side chatting, and a few of them are a little like slow to make their decisions. Like one of them's like, I'm like, "What do you want to do?" And they sit there like, "I'm gone." I'm like, "What do you want to do?" So sometimes our games run a little slow. I got to figure that out. I want to speed combat up so bad. I want to do more than just an hourglass thing, though. I'm trying my best to figure out a way to keep things moving as quickly as possible. But sometimes it's difficult. I think sometimes it's just my players they keep on going on side chats. Like they're all really good friends. They're all super close. They all used to work together. It's funny. I'm kind of the outsiders. All my wife's coworkers, and one of them is an old friend of mine from college. But they all work together at Starbucks, and so they just keep on having these side conversations. I'm like, guys, and I gotta like describe what's going on. Like in the middle of combat, I'm like, one of them like shot an arrow, and I'm trying to say what happened, and the 2 people on the right are having one conversation, the 2 people on the left are having another conversation. I'm like, hello, Dungeons and Dragons. One thing I gotta do is somebody had said this, and it's a great idea. Say, doors open at 11, meaning be at my house at 11. Game starts at 11:45. That way they can show up, put the beer in the fridge, chit chat, whatever, kind of have some time to get it all out of their system. Then we sit down and play. But it's so hard to. They're kittens, and I'm hurting them. So that, yeah. Yeah, I know. Use 30 second. Yeah, I know. I have like a whole thing of different sand timers. I was thinking about getting like a really cool one, but I really like to kind of save that for dramatic scenes. So I don't know. I want to do something that speeds it up. I do like the sand timer idea just because, like I said, a couple of them that just sit there and take too long to think. I'm like planning out ahead of time. I always say, "You're up, you're on deck." I always tell them that. And then I have a TV on the table with the maps, and I have Foundry up. Like I'm using the maps through Foundry, and even though they have their character. Yeah, I know. I've got a whole thing of different sand timers here. So I've got a 30 second. I should have a 1 minute, but it's missing. I think my son has it. A 2 minute, a 3 minute, a 5 minute, and a 10 minute timer. So I have different timers for different stuff. Um, what else? I don't know. I wish Bill was still here. I wonder if Bill is a relative of Ben's or if that's Ben's account. um, hmm. So other than that, um, yeah, I'm just angry. I'm so angry. Um, I don't know what else to say about it, man. It's just it sucks. What? How? Who thinks this stuff up? Who thinks this is a good idea? I mean, I've seen a few people who are like, "Oh, they deserve a piece of the pie." Sure, but they don't deserve your intellectual property. Like, I saw one person on Twitter being like, "This is like a landlord saying you could live there for free, and then you fix up the house, and now they want their house back." And I'm like, "Yeah, except for the fact that they don't just want the house back; they want all of your belongings with it." They're like, "Oh, you can continue to live here, but anything you buy from now on for yourself, we get to keep. When like we can steal all of your belongings." Like, no. Oh, and plus, and we get a piece of your paycheck like for living in our house. No, I don't know. I think it's getting harder and harder to stick up for Watsy. If you're like somebody who's like, "Oh yeah, it's not a big deal," I think it's getting harder and harder to take that stance. The more we see, the harder it gets. Um, the head of Watsy is from Xbox, Microsoft. She has a different mindset. Yeah, she's not a gamer. She's not one of us, right? She is a microtransaction. And again, I don't like the idea of microtransactions. I get it, um, but that's not even the part that really gets me. It's the whole OGL thing. I think though. Well, you know what? Actually, let's talk about that. We've been talking about the OGL for a bit. Let's talk about the microtransaction, the financials of other ways they want to monetize besides stealing. Um, Obviously, we all, most of us, anyways, have been doing video games for a while, and we've seen the rise in the microtransaction, right? World of Warcraft did it with the pets and the mounts and vanity armor. My son's in there right now playing Fortnite, and all he wanted for Christmas was Fortnite V Bucks. It's a thing, the whole market has shifted in video games. And what will happen with this is they'll start small. It'll be death by a thousand cuts, right? They'll just start off with little things. It's already happened even before D&D Beyond was owned by Watsy, right? They were doing the dice and different like skins and stuff like that. It's just going to be more and more, right? Like they're so like I could buy the whole player's handbook, or I could buy just one subclass if I don't want the whole player's handbook, right? That's cool. That's fine. I get that, right? That makes sense if I'm making a character and I need to access that one subclass but not the whole book. But what they will do is they'll say, "Here's a new subclass exclusively on D&D Beyond. It's not in any printed book. You can only get it on D&D Beyond. So you have to buy it. There's no other book. It's just $2, $3, whatever it is." And they will start doing that more and more and more. And what was that whole thing they did about like, oh, buy a reroll or buy, I don't remember. They tried doing all sorts of weird stuff. It was, I don't know. And they try to do it in the name of charity, but it's microtransactions. Let's see. This is like an artist demanding money for a DJ's remix. Yeah. Uh, that was never me. I've never stood up for them. I'm the grumpy one. Yeah. Uh, if that's the case, this might go down like Xbox One, where they ticked off the community so much that they all ran to PlayStation. Yeah. Um, they want to take out DM's Guild, put everything on D&D Beyond. That's what the badge is. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. And that's the other thing, right? Is I don't know how many people realize this, but when you publish on D&D Beyond, you lose 50% of your income, right? Part of the money goes to WotC. They get 50%, and you also give up the rights to your work. So I was talking about that Tasselhoff's Pouches of Everything book that the guys at the Dragonlance Nexus put out. But if WotC said, "Wow, this is a good book," they could just take it and publish it, or they could steal any parts of it they want and publish it, and not give any credit to the writers and any money to the writers. That's what happens when you publish on DM's Guild. That's why most third-party publishers like Kobold Press and AAW and Nord and Pacer, they don't publish on DM's Guild because of that. So, drive through RPG is generally a better option, though you still pay a cut. It's not. It's not. You don't give up your rights. That's the other thing too is with the OGLs that they want to tell you where you can publish. They limit your publishing capabilities. Yeah, they can publish anywhere they want. They can steal your work and publish it in other places. So yeah, it's a cluster. Like I've been wanting to be able to put third party stuff onto D&D Beyond forever, but not at the expense of losing your rights to it. That's insane. That's insane. So yeah, I don't know. But anyways, I think what would happen with the microtransactions is it'll start off small. They'll do little things, and over time, right? We might, you and I might say, "Oh, this sucks," but as new players come in, that's just normal. That's just how it is. My son doesn't know a world without microtransactions in video games, and he's not going to know a world of D&D without microtransactions. And here's the first, let's do it, right? And more games could start doing that. Now, granted, not every game's got a digital market like that D&D has. So, to what degree will that happen? I don't know. Maybe you can buy a PDF of just one subclass or something like that if you wanted to for $1 or whatever it is. But I think that it could really, over time, and I'm not talking over a year, I'm talking 10, 15 years, it could really reshape an industry and not for the better. Yeah, so here's the other thing, right? Class action. If you agree to the terms of 1.1, which apparently they think you don't have to agree to, you just magically agree to, you can't participate in a class action lawsuit. Nick says, Michael, amen. I was about to buy D&D books. I'm buying up Pathfinder books instead. I mean, yeah. Personally, I'm buying up 5e books because I want to keep playing it and I like it. Especially third party ones. Especially if they're not going to sell them anymore. I don't know. I mean, I already have all my Kobold Press ones. Here's the thing, Nick. I could never buy another book, and I could play D&D 5e happily for the rest of my life. I have so much content. But I'm not looking at it at a me level. I'm looking at it at a global level. This is a hobby. This is an industry that I love. And I feel like future generations of gamers are going to be affected by this. I kind of compared it, and I don't want to get political. I kind of compared it to climate change, where I'm like, yeah, the Earth's not burning now, but what happens to our grandkids, right? Same thing with our hobby is it's not on fire yet, but it's gonna catch on fire. And so what happens to the hobby as a whole over time? I mean, are we just gonna take these 5e books and pass them down from father to son for 100 years to keep people playing it? No, I mean, at some point we need new content, and will it be there? I don't know. And don't forget, Pathfinder could be affected by all this. Only 99 cents for a cool sword, another buck for a tunic. Soon you spent $30 on clothes and your digital mini that gets killed next session. That's going to get old fast. Yeah, but I would imagine that tunic you own now and can put it on other minis. But yeah, you gotta buy the other mini. Um, hell yeah, so do I. 1,000 PDFs. Who needs WotC? We're doing this for the next 50 years. Cool. Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, like I said, I've got enough content, but I mean, there's people again. Let's circle back to the fact that there's people who this is their livelihood, this is their jobs, this is their businesses, that are going to go under or could go under if this happens. So here, all right. So now let's address something else. Well, let's go to a new system. I agree. Let's go to a new system. Which one? Right? Why is everyone published for D&D now and not for some other system? There's better systems out there. And I'm not even talking about other OGL systems like Pathfinder. There's better D6 systems out there. There's systems that are so much better than 5e and the D20 system and whatever that don't rely on the OGL. So why doesn't Global Press publish for that? Why doesn't Nord publish for that? Why doesn't Green Ronin publish for that? Because D&D is where the player base is. That's where the money is. That's how you have a business, right? And if we're going to go to another system, we have to decide what system, and everybody has to go to it. Pathfinder was successful because everybody went to it. But Pathfinder was in a very unique position at the time where they were already working with Wizards of the Coast. They were publishing the magazine at the time. They had everybody's email addresses and mailing list, and they were able to just basically go out there and say, hey, everybody, we have a new 3.5, our own 3.5 system called Pathfinder coming out. Come check it out if you're not a fan of 4E. They were just in the right time at the right place, the right conditions. It was a perfect storm, and Pathfinder succeeded. I don't know how that's going to happen again. Now, that said, earlier in the stream, I had mentioned how because game mechanics can't be copyrighted, that we could technically write a system and change terminology and words and things like that to mimic 5e, so to speak, and have a 5e clone that's not 5e. We wouldn't have evocation wizards in that one, right? We wouldn't have divination wizards. We wouldn't have anything in the player's handbook, but we can have other subclasses. We might not call them subclasses, or we might not call it martial style for fighters or something like that. We call it something else. We just change any term that wizards might own to something else. Look at Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. It's kind of a good example, though that uses the OGL. That with a little tweaking could be a new 5e clone that doesn't need the OGL, I think. And don't quote me on that. But there are ways you can do it. And if we did that, right, then we can have an OGL for that, and all of our existing 5e stuff works, and we can keep on publishing new stuff in that same system. So, rumor has it that there is a coalition, so to speak, of third-party publishers that are coming together, that are going to form a company and put out a new system that is compatible with our current one, and they will basically create this new system, sell core books, put out the core books, and then have an open gaming license for it, and then they can all go back to their own little companies and keep on publishing. So again, will WotC attack them for that? Will it go to court? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the legal ramifications are for that and how that would work. But to me, that's a really good case scenario, is that if we can pull that off and have literally a 5e clone that maybe even fixes the stuff that we find broken in 5e better than 1D&D does it, then yeah, I think that would be super cool. Like I said, if you haven't looked at Level Up's advanced 5th edition books, check them out, man. They're pretty cool. I was looking at it the other day, and I'm like, oh, this is great. So I picked up most of the books on PDF, and I like them. I should review them at some point. They're really cool. Let's see here. Back to our comments. Oh, you guys are talking. Let's see. WotC's the new EA. Yep. Right. All my titles are 0.51 right now. We need to yell at Watsy to pound sand. Yeah, no kidding. 95 people signed my petition for a class action so far. Let's see here. I'm rereading some of this stuff. There's always something from 5e I want, like more content. Me too, man. We go where the players are. We go where the support is. It also goes against like the whole premise of D&D. The books literally tell you to break the rules and make stuff up to make your own content. It's disappointing. I agree. I have this system written. It's a 2d20. I'll show the math too. If Piazzo dropped a new RPG system now, they might be in prime place to take the market again, just like you mentioned with 4E. Right, but here's the thing: they just invested all this time and money into 2E. Like that would be hard for them to do. I think at this point is to back out of 2E. I mean, they might have to. They might be forced to. But unfortunately, I was looking at 2E and it uses the OGL, which is unfortunate. But I haven't played 2E yet. I've looked into it. I think the thing I find most interesting about it is the 3-action economy. Seems really cool. I definitely need to jump in on 2E while I still can because it looks super cool. There is no clear system to move to, which is why I keep bringing it up. There is no clear successor. VTM did well back in the day being an alternate to 3 because of environment. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? There's no clear successor. Hopefully, like I said, if enough publishers came together and said, this is our system, that we're going to create our own system, or we're all going to start publishing for this system, but really it has to come down to the fans, right? The players, the people with the money that are buying the product have to decide what system they want. And if all these D&D players, these millions of D&D players just go, oh, one D&D is cool, I'm going to go get it, I don't know what to do, But I think we're going to see a splinter. At this point, if this whole OGL thing sticks, I think we'll see another splinter, and a system is going to come out as another Pathfinder type competitor, except this one won't rely on the OGL. And I really hope that it is a 5e compatible clone of some sort that I can easily adapt all my current 5e books into, because that would be the best case scenario in my opinion. Or at least second best case scenario besides Wizards saying, oh, this is not going to work, and backtracking all the way up. It's Michael, it's in the books. Nick, I know I'm from 1E. Pathfinder 1E was outselling D&D during 4th edition, right? Oh, yeah. No, big time. 4th edition, 2 issues there was 1, no OGL, right? Instead they had the game system license, so there was no third-party content. You see how that went. And 2, it was a combat-heavy oriented version that was meant to kind of compete with World of Warcraft and other MMOs, and it wasn't received well. Now, here's the thing: 4E gets a lot of hate, and rightfully so. However, there are some cool things about 4E. If you actually go and look at 4E books, there's some cool mechanics. There's some great ideas in 4E that I think are worth adapting to your 5th edition games. But that's a whole nother topic. Let's see. Pathfinder was number 1 for a while. Yes, Pathfinder started to beat 4E. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Heath. So Heath is another YouTuber. I found his channel yesterday, and we were chatting on there for a bit, and his channel's cool, so make sure you check it out. I saw you put up a clip today of our conversation from yesterday, too. Mike, could a Kobold Press make a core book? No. I mean, yes, they could, but they're not. I don't think they're going to. There was a conversation in one of the Kobold Press Facebook groups today, and somebody's asking, is there a Kobold Press system? No, there's not, and there's probably not going to be. They're so invested in 5e at this point. So big guys like Kobold Press, this is kind of a worry of mine, is could Kobold Press have already cut a deal? I hope they haven't. I mean, I hope, or if they did, I hope it's a good deal for them. But I don't want Kobold Press, like 1 or 2 publishers getting in on the action and then everybody else getting left out, because it's not going to be good. Like, I love Kobold Press, but it's not the only one I love, and I don't want to use it exclusively. If that's the only thing available for 5th edition, third party wise, like, how's that good? It's not. Either it has to be an open market or no market. Like, I don't want to see some halfway thing. Like, I don't want to see just Critical Role being part of 1D&D and everybody else getting left out, that almost makes you look like that would really make them look like a bad guy. Like they said, they got on board with the evil corporation and left everybody else out in the cold. Not cool. So I don't know. I guess I do. I love Copal Press. I love Wolfgang. I love the people that work there. I'm friends with many of them. I just hope that I hope it all works out for the best, and I hope people stand behind the community. But also, I wouldn't want to lose my business, especially if I make a lot of money at it, and I have a bunch of employees and stuff like that I pay. Like, I wouldn't want to see that all get flushed down the toilet. Like, that's a tough decision to be in if you're Wolfgang Bar, right? Like, what do? Do I keep my company going and bend to this will of this evil corporation a bit in order to keep my company going, keep feeding my family and paying my mortgage? Or do I risk it all? I can't say what somebody like that should do. That's a tough place to be in. I've heard a lot of people about the new playtest material about 6e is not going over well so far. Anecdotal, but hundreds of players so far talking about it. We'll see. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of the stuff in the new 6e stuff that looks pretty good to me. A lot of it is just stuff that we're doing at home anyways, and they just kind of made it the rules. What I don't like is that they're changing classes so that like everybody gets their subclass at 3, I think, or something like that, because that breaks all of this third-party content of subclasses and stuff like that. Like they're saying it's backwards compatible, but at that level, at the player character level, it is not backwards compatible at all. I can plug my adventures into 1D&D, but I can't plug my player options that I own from third-party publishers into it. So it is not backwards compatible at that level. But there's a lot of cool mechanics in it. It's not the worst system in the world. I mean, I think they're taking the good stuff about 5e and fixing some of the bad stuff. I mean, let's face it, Rangers were broken. They were not a good class. I think Tasha's. See, now if they just kind of did what they did with Tasha's with 1D&D, I think that'd be good. Tasha's, I think, was a very good book. I know some people don't like it. What they did for the Ranger and Tasha's Cauldron was fantastic. That, to me, fixed the Ranger. The only thing I would have added to that is for Beastmaster Rangers, I would have said, and maybe they did. I don't think they did, but my rule is, if you're a Beastmaster and you command your beast to attack as an action, you can still attack with your offhand as a bonus action. Like, so it counts as an attack action for the purposes of dual wielding. Because otherwise, until you get your extra attack at level 5, Beastmaster Rangers become underpowered. So that's the only thing I would say. But Tasha's was a good book. Let me ask, how do creators share and decide a game system together? Great question, right? So they come together, right? You come together and you collaborate. I've even talked to some of the guys who might do this, and I'm a project manager by trade, and I offered up my services for that. But it's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of talking, and it's deciding on what to do together as a team. Because part of it, I think writing the rules itself, especially if it's just going to be a 5e clone, is that part's easy. The part that's important is that they all get behind it together and say, we as a community of creators are creating the system that we will all then publish for with our own companies, because that then gets us to what we were talking about before, is what system? Well, this system. So I think that would be important for it to work. I like how 4E gave you different options for which stats affect attack AC within the class. I always thought it was kind of cool. Yeah, I know. Like I said, also the whole bloodied thing. I don't think that was in Pathfinder, although I didn't play a ton of Pathfinder. But the whole bloodied thing, where at 50% they become bloodied, and noticeably hurt. I always liked that too. When I played with before I had all my minis, I would buy washers at the hardware store, like 1-inch washers, and I'd print out round images of the creatures, and I'd glue them onto the washer. I had a little 1-inch hole punch, so I'd print out this template with all the pictures, and I'd punch them out, and I put the thing on, and then on the other side was the same picture, but with a red overlay for bloodied, so I could flip them over and say they're bloodied. So That I thought was a cool thing. And I also liked how the minions worked, where you have all these one hit point minions that you can just slice through. It made you feel super cool. Mike says Nord, AW, Global Press, Lore Smith, etc. Love them all. Yes, I agree. I'm waiting for my Lore Smith Kickstarter to fulfill. I have all 4 books showing up. I got all the PDFs, but now I'm excited to get all 4 of their books on my shelf. Also, side note, I got Rise of the Drow based on a review. Awesome. Stoked to use it. Might use it mostly as a setting book in my Forgotten Realms campaign. Yeah, it's such a good book, man. It's so much better than Out of the Abyss. You can see. So, you see I have several copies. I have 2 copies there on the shelf. Right. Sorry, it's backwards here. Right here and here. And then this is the Pathfinder version. That is actually a test print cover of Rise of the Drow. So when AAW was like creating the book, they get a proof print of the cover from the manufacturer. That's the cover they got, and Jonathan Nelson of AAW autographed that, put a little note, and signed it for me, and sent it to me as a thank you. So I have the only proof cover of the Rise of the Drow book right there. Subset system is a homage to 1E. Boyle classes down to make it even easier to get into the game. I think the suggestion of creating multiple systems based on an age demographic might be better. It's cleric, the only class that broke the 3rd level choice. No, wizards. Wizards get theirs at 2nd level. Yeah, your wallet winces when you watch me. That's because I know what's good, man. I have good suggestions on what to buy. So let me go back to Chris's thing about subset systems. You're not wrong, but again, when we're talking about businesses having to publish things, it's hard to do for multiple systems and stay profitable. I mean, it can be done, right? Some companies publish for 13th Age and Pathfinder and 5E and what's the other one I'm trying to think of? Help me out here. There's another popular system. I have it in my Foundry and I can't think of what it's called. Maybe it is 13th Age. There's another one that a lot. Oh, and then there's also like the BCX or whatever it's called. I mean, so there's other systems that they do publish for, but much smaller. Sets of people to buy that product. Less people to buy it. So it's a tough business decision because you can't just print 100 books. Like you have to print 1,000 or something. So when it comes to cost of printing and things like that, you could always just make it available only PDF. But I like having my physical books on my shelf. I want physical books. That's the other thing. Are they going to keep printing physical books when it comes to 1D&D? Because if I was to play it, which I'm not saying I'm going to, because I probably won't at this point, I would want physical books. Like, don't get me wrong, I like having digital. I like having PDFs that I can quickly search and find stuff. And I like, I even like D&D Beyond for its ease of use on certain things. But I need to have a physical book, man. Like, I have to have my books. I sit in bed at night and I read the Midgard World book. Or, when I'm doing my game prep, I have this big desk here. You can't see it, but I'll have books spread out and I'm doing research and writing notes and, all sorts of stuff. Are the primary 2D20s, are there any funny, didn't somebody just say, was it you that said they developed a 2D20 system? Somebody in here said they developed a 2D20 system. I believe there's a Conan RPG system that does a 2 to 5D. Star Wars the Fantasy Flights one. Fantasy Flights games. Here, I'll share my screen. Oh, that's not what I was looking at. This system. These guys, the Age of Empire, Age of Rebellion, this one, their dice system's super cool. It's like you roll a die, but then you have like these force dice and stuff like that you can roll, and it will change the outcomes and do different things. And it's very, I don't know, just a cool actiony system. From what I've seen of it, super cool, and I definitely need to play this game at some point. Like, I know I play probably not enough other games because I'm always doing D&D stuff, but if there's any other game I want to play, it's this one. Excuse me. One more. That's better. Let's see here. Uh, let's see. Are there any? I believe there's a Conan RPG system that does. Yeah, okay. The multiple systems would be cribbed for the same rules, so it could still work. It is more about the secondary content, such as how cartoony the 5e content has become, apparent even to 3. That's art, though, right? Like, I don't think that 5e is cartoony. Maybe you said the art, you don't like the art styles, but I mean, I definitely love the second edition art styles. Like that's when I got into D&D, was in AD&D second edition. So the Day of the Four Horsemen, Larry Elmore and those guys, that art will never be beat in my opinion. That art is so good. I really need to buy a Larry Elmore print, like get it signed and hang it on my wall. Because especially I love the Heroes of the Lance picture. It's one of my favorite Larry Elmores. But there's so much good stuff. Jeff Easley and all those guys. God, that was good art. But the art doesn't make the game, right? Like it's funny because it's funny you bring up the art because that's kind of like that was one of those things that for I think a lot of people pulled them into D&D back in the day was the art. Like I feel like in 5th edition I barely look at the art. Like it blends in. It doesn't pop off the page like the old art did. So it just whatever. Now Cobalt Press and AW and Nord. I love Nord's art styles in their books, but they all have really good art, and it's a lot of the same artists. Like, there's so much talented art out there that is these third-party artists that will get screwed by all this. But yeah, there's a ton of good art out there. Um, It's mine. Open. Yeah, I know it's one of the. Yeah, okay. Heath says Morpheus does the 2D20 system, but they just lost their license to Conan. Chris says, is it still clear that they want kids, teenagers to get into the hobby and sanitize the hobby? Fits well with Hasbro's suite of products. It is still clear that they want kids and teenagers to get into the hobby. Yeah, but the game itself, the core game is pretty sanitized. I mean, third party can spice it up or sanitize it more however they want. That's the thing, right? Is variety is the spice. My sister is a teacher, a grade school teacher, and she messaged me, she contacted me because she's like, hey, one of the teachers here wants to start a D&D club for the kids, and we're talking like 4th and 5th graders here. And she's like, any advice? And I gave her a bunch of advice on it and stuff like that. But D&D at its core is fine. I mean, like I maybe wouldn't play the Rick and Morty one with those kids, but you could play like the starter boxes or most of the adventures are fine. There's nothing really wrong with them. Um, let's see. Is there a way I can send you my book on the D20 system for free? Yeah, 5 year. Are you talking to me, one D&D? About sending me the book, or is that for someone else? I mean, you can send me a book if you want. I can take a look at it. Yeah, ironically, if you want teenagers to be interested in being sanitized, might not be the way to go. Teenagers like things that are rebellious and edgy. So let me tell you a story about that, Heath. A friend of mine who I play D&D with, he's actually DMs for me because despite being the DM toolbox, I actually get to play once in a while. I'm generally the forever DM, but a friend of mine, I get to go over his house, a couple times a month, and he runs a great game. Very creative guy, amazing writer. He's a little wishy-washy in the rules sometimes. I have to remind him about certain rules. Like when I first started playing with him, he thought that 5e was too powerful. Now he thinks there's things that are underpowered. He's all over the place with the rules. But when it comes to his storytelling, he is fantastic. And his son, who just graduated high school, 18 years old, cool kid, he plays. He's a very good player too. He's a bit of a rules lawyer, but I like the kid. A couple of his friends who are a year younger than him, but they all played football together. He got these 3 kids to come over and start playing D&D. They had never played D&D before. And these kids are hooked, man. Now, granted, my friend who's the DM he does some gritty stuff. Like one of the first games I did with him, I was playing a dwarf druid, and he had this whole like skeletal beast monster thing. It was very, very horror-esque. And now the campaign we're running is more like kind of like 17 or 1800s Britain, England kind of setting. Like think highway coats and tricorder hats and gunpowder. I'm actually using Toma Heroes from Kobold Press, and I'm playing a gunslinger ranger. It's just a really, but it's very like there's also a lot of like horror type elements, like oh man, there's like cannibals in here, and there's like this whole thing going on with this creatures that are that have like metal arms that are like locked, and he's having a great time. So I think that there's a good amount of material out there for them. But again, I think third party material is key. Homebrew and third party, man, is where it's at. Like, what's really funny is I had never even considered running a published adventure before fifth edition. Like, when I played in high school, my DM back then, everything was homebrew. Even when we played Dragonlance, we played in the Dragonlance setting, but it was all homebrewed. We never played modules. Like, I was like, didn't know that was a thing. So when I first started playing fifth edition, my very first thing I did was homebrewed. Like, I just started homebrewing because that was like all I knew. Now I was like, okay, I buy these modules, but I never run them word for word. I always brew them up. And I think most people do, but yeah, I mean, I think that the creativity aspect needs to be there. I run a D&D club for high schoolers, and a coworker runs a club for grade schoolers at the school I teach at. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like, I love seeing it at the schools. I love that kids are doing it. I think it's super cool. The problem of killing in the game, that entire thread came out about heroes killing and stealing and charging, changing the nature of D&D that was popular thread about voting no kill rules, etc. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, but that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, these kids are just going to go home and play Call of Duty. Like, I think that maybe in a school, just given the world as it is, maybe don't have gunpowder rules and don't have guns in the games at school. Maybe I'd go that route. But, I mean, I played in high school. Like, when I was in high school, we would just stay after school. We'd play at lunch, or we'd stay after school and play in the cafeteria after school. And then I take the late bus home. Lightbringer was a religious D&D version that died a horrible death to sanitize when I was a teen. I never even heard of it. That is what I mean, Michael. I think it might work better in future to keep growing the hobby, or to create one rule set and different sub games for various groups, wargamers, kids, etc., adults. Yeah, I mean, I guess. But, again, the OGL is there for that, right? Somebody could write a 5e based sanitized game if that's what people want to play with the OGL. But we take that away, we can't do that. There's only, what I just realized? One D&D. There's only one now because all the others are not allowed. That's why it's one D&D, because it's the only one that we're allowed to have. It's the one true D&D. Drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah, when I was playing in high school, we didn't have the money to buy adventures, and when someone did, we passed it around to everybody we knew, and we just made lots of adjustments to it. Yeah, we also went down to the school library and made photocopies. I think I still have a 3-ring binder of photocopy pages from old books from high school. Homebrew is definitely the way it was, but we didn't call it homebrew back then. Yeah, we just called it Dungeons and Dragons back then, because that's what it was. That's how you played back then. But here's another thing that I don't think a lot of newer people to the hobby realize, is that TSR sued the crap out of everybody. I mean, that was their shtick. They sued Gary Gygax. So, if you haven't read Slaying the Dragon yet, you totally should. That's a great book. I think I did a review on it on my channel at some point. But it tells the history about TSR and D&D and all that stuff. And basically, Gary Gygax had to eventually sell the company, and evil rich lady came in and eventually fired him. And he's like, well, screw that, I'll go make a new game. And I can't remember what he called it, like Dungeon Delvers or something like that. But it was the initials were D&D, and they're like, you can't put Gary Gygax on the cover, call it D&D, and they sued him and won. But they sued anybody who made anything that was remotely close. And when Wizards took over, that was the whole thing with Ryan Dancy, the guy who was the brainchild of the OGL. He's like, that's part of the issue, is that TSR was too hard on all this. We need to open up to the community. We need to foster a community of creative people. That so many people are writing adventures. let's, if they're writing stuff, it's just going to sell our product better. And that's the thing about the OGL is it was a mutually beneficial thing, right? People got to create content, sell that content, make money off of it, cool. And in the meantime, Dungeons and Dragons perpetuated. More people bought the books. I can buy all the Kobold Press stuff I want. I still need the player's handbook. I still need I probably still need the monster manual, the DMG, and Xanathars and Tasha's. I mean, I need the adventures necessarily, but those core books, I still want all those, right? Like, I'm buying D&D products because I buy third-party products. It helps the hobby. So yeah. Let's see. That's what I mean, Michael. That's what I mean. I think it might work better in the future to keep growing. Hobby. No, we already read that. I've seen anime, LGBTQ, Western versions, all from the OGL. Yeah. One of my kids is gay, and I backed a Kickstarter for her about it. So I mean, yeah. It's a thing. Like, there's all sorts of little niches that you can do. Yes, copies of Horror on the Hill. We took copies of the maps. Yeah, I mean, so much stuff I've got here. You want to see something? You guys can laugh at me. Where is it? Oh, this right here is my high school notebook for my D&D world, Delmar. And I have in here the gods. I've got the history of the world with the Great War. I've got the races. I've got, let's see here. I've got the geography. I've got all this stuff in here. That was my homebrew world back then. This is my Trapper Keeper folder from the 90s where I kept all my D&D stuff. I have right here one of my world maps that I made in colored pencil back then. And then I even have my very first ever Dungeons and Dragons character right here. His name was Thistle, was his first name, and his last name was Suck. Thistle Suck, Halfling Thief. My very, very, very first Dungeons and Dragons character ever. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, I keep everything. Let's see. An OG notebook. Yeah, dude, I keep it all. So, you know what's funny? I'll tell you another story. So, I had tons of second edition D&D stuff. I mean, I had tons of it. I had all the core books. I had all the the race books and class books, those little, like, maroon colored books. I had them all. I had the Encyclopedia Magicas. I had Dragonlance box sets, all these books, right? So I go to college. I lived in New York, and now I live in Arizona. I was going to Arizona to go to college, and I took a duffel bag with everything in it, all of my stuff, and even all my magic cards, except I kept one deck of magic cards with all my, like, dual lands and moxes and stuff. And I gave it to a friend and said, hold on to it. I'll get it back from you one day. Fast forward, and I messaged him one day when I get back to D&D. I'm like, hey, do you still have all my D&D stuff? He's like, nah, my girlfriend got mad at me one day, and she burned all my D&D stuff. I'm like, you mean all my D&D stuff? He's like, yeah. So they got in a fight, and she just put lighter fluid on his entire D&D collection and burned it all. So all of my stuff got destroyed. So I slowly, over the last couple of years, have been rebuilding it. And I do have a lot of it, not all of it, but most of the stuff I care about, I have again. I have them in plastic wrap. Here's the Encyclopedia Magicas. I have all 4 of them from second edition AD&D. So I've got a lot of good stuff. Yeah, the green character sheet. So here's another cool thing, by the way, if you want to do something fun, right? So every now and then I'll look, like, on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace, try to find people selling D&D books locally. Like, I get on the auction group sites and eBay and stuff like that too. But if I ever can, I'll find people selling them locally and I'll go buy them. So one day somebody had these books, and it turns out they actually bought, they're one of those things where you buy a storage unit of somebody's stuff that never paid, and they had D&D books in there. So I bought it all from them. I got a great price. I got a Dragonlance, the first edition Dragonlance book, and a few other things. And one of the things that was in there was the book of those character sheets, right? So here, where is it? Hold on. Here. So if you recall this, right? This has the character sheets in it. And inside, we have the blank character sheets. But we also have filled out character sheets. We have people's characters from whoever owned this before. We have Elric here. This was Steve's character. Doesn't say what it was. A good aligned human magic user. We've got Belgroth the wizard. So I take these. We got Gajin, who seems to be some kind of samurai. I take these character sheets that I find. Sometimes I found like ones that are like just on like a freaking graph paper or loose leaf that are folded and tucked into a book that I bought. Those all become NPCs in my games. I take them and I write them in as NPCs in my games. Oh, so then my magic cards, right? I don't know what happened to them. But the magic cards I kept were all the valuable ones. And I had them in sleeves, and I had them in a Crown Royal bag. Now, granted, this was before like a dual land was worth hundreds of dollars. A Mox might have been worth like $300-400. But anyways, I have all these cards. I think I had the Moxes in like the little hard plastic sleeves, and they were in a drawer in my office. And a friend of mine that I worked with played Magic. He's like, "Hey, so you got Magic cards?" I'm like, "Yeah, blah blah blah." He's like, "I'll buy those off you." Now at the time, I think that what I had in there with a handful of dual lands and 2 Moxes was probably worth maybe about $4,000. At the time, I was super broke and I was getting married, so I'm like, man, that could help pay for the wedding. So I wanted to sell them. Couldn't find them, but I'm like, that's all right. I'll dig them up. I'm sure they're somewhere. So me and my wife get married. We're on our honeymoon. We're sitting down at dinner one night. I'm like, hey, you know that guy at work I was telling you about? She's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. He wants to buy all my Magic cards. Like, he wants to give me like $4,000 or $5,000 for them all. She's like, that's awesome. We can so use the money. She's like, where are your cards? I'm like, I don't know. I can't find them. And she's like, well, what do they look like? I'm like, I could have sworn I had them in that drawer, and I had them in a Crown Royal bag, HDTV, and they said, if you don't use something for like 2 years, just throw it away. You're never going to use it. I'm like, that doesn't include collectibles, babe. So my Magic cards are gone too. Since the casual players don't care about the OGL, we need to send a message to Wizards of the Coast loud and clear, walk OGL 1.1 back. Yeah, which is why we're here talking about it, right? Like, I feel like, I said, I'm not trying to be a doomsday sayer. I'm not trying to, say everybody panic, the house is on fire. But what I am trying to say is that the leak is more than likely true. It's not the final version of the OGL. I guarantee what we see next week, assuming it drops next week, will not be what we saw in this leak, especially at this point, right? But the reason that it won't be is because we're talking about it and because we're upset about it. And the more upset we get, the more we talk about it, the more we let them know how we feel, the better. Because I guarantee what we see next week's not going to be great either. And we're going to need them to walk it back again. Don't settle for what they give us in this next round, unless they basically say the 1.0 OGL sticks and you can keep creating with it. Then no. Now, like I said, if they want to create a crappy OGL that only covers one D&D, that's fine. But leave 5e out of it. Leave 3.5 out of it. Like, our old OGL states. Period. You can't revoke that crap. As long as we're good there, do whatever you want. Like, if you want to shoot yourself in the foot on one D&D, go ahead and shoot yourself in the foot. The rest of us know what's going on. I just hope they don't get rid of all the other companies that do VTT stuff, which I think that's going to go away. We're going to have to use Wizard of the Coast Virtual Tabletop. No, we were not, because no, I'm just not going to. Right? I'm a Foundry guy. They could take, Foundry can say like, we can't put out the 5e SRD anymore, but I already have it on my computer. I'll just keep using it. It's mine. Like, I have the files. They can't stop me from using it. Now, they might go to the Forge or Foundry server and say, if you guys have any people's servers on here that have that, you have to take it down. That's fine. I'll just host it from my own computer. It's for my private use. Like, they can't stop that. And I guarantee the community will some way or another keep it going, at least on the founder side. I think Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds will probably end up getting to keep stuff around. Whether or not they'll be able to do one D&D is another story. Because don't forget, here's the deal: is the Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop is going to probably be exclusively for one D&D. So I don't know why they would care that the other systems are using 5e. Like, unless they just want people to not play 5e and force everybody into one D&D, which makes sense that they would want to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think there is enough legal pressure this coming week to make the course change. I'm prepared to write the class action if needed. Yeah, and then did you see the letter that DM Dave posted? I can't remember who it was on behalf of, but let me pull it up here. DM Dave, Facebook. He posted on Facebook. Let's pull that up and share that. Blah, blah, blah. That's funny. He does a thing where it's Principal Skinner, and it says Wizards of the Coast over his face there. It says, "Am I out of touch? No, it's the fans who are wrong." TM Dave is pissed. Man, DM Dave's got some good memes. This letter? This letter I'm talking about. Oh, you cloned the letter. That makes more sense. Yeah. So this letter, if you guys haven't read it, this is on DM Dave's Facebook site. But basically, it's a bunch of legalese. I won't read it here, but essentially saying that Wizards of the Coast, you're wrong, you can't do it, and we're ready to sue your ass. So he basically gave them 10 days to answer as of January 5th. So we're a couple days in here. So if they don't come, they're pretty much at this point legally, they're going to have to make a response at some point. Otherwise, it's going to court. So yeah. Does it? Yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely out there. Let's look at memes. Wizards of the Coast removing the OGL. It's so dumb. It's brilliant. Literally everyone on Earth. No, it's just dumb. It's just no. Yeah, they should never assign that NDA. Be kind. It's okay to have a civil discussion without someone you don't necessarily agree with. A few jokes are fine, but there's no. But yes, he's not wrong. Wizards of the Coast right now. Party content. Third party content illegal. Online tools for D&D illegal. Pathfinder illegal. Using anything but D&D Beyond VTTs other than one D&D illegal. This meme, guess what? Illegal too. Yeah. Oh, by the way, apparently, I think it was on D&D's Wizards of the Coast like Reddit, the official Reddit. They basically are banning any conversation about the OGL. They're just taking it down. Now, I do still see conversation happening in the D&D Beyond forums, but I don't know if they're going to take those down or not. But you know, let's just not talk about it. That's the best way to handle it. Anyways, good stuff, right, guys? Good stuff. I think the 10-day falls on the Friday the 13th. Yeah, we'll see. Wow, 35 viewers. You guys are all interested about this whole OGL thing. It's funny because I feel like it's the only thing I've been watching. It's like I just get on YouTube now and I type OGL and I see what new videos are out. And I just watch them all. I listen to everybody's opinion on it. And that's all. It's like, all right, it's a lot of opinion. It's a lot of speculation. It's just, I want some facts. I want to see this thing. I keep hoping that somebody's going to leak the actual document so we can just freaking read it. Of course, then people are going to go, we don't even know if it's a real document. Somebody could have just made it up. I mean, whatever. We know what's going on at this point, right? We all stop content creation. Yeah, that's right. Are we going to have to stop content creation? Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. It just pisses me off. It really grinds my gears, Peter Griffin would say. You know what really grinds my gears? Wizards of the Coast. They really grind my gears. I mean, dude, I got so much invested in this hobby, like so much time. You know, I've been trying to kind of convert out of my day job, like my real career, into doing stuff like this as a career. Like I've got all these different, fires in the poker. I'm trying to make this a thing that I can make a living off of, which is hard enough to do. And now I just basically got in the whole like, oh yeah, all that work you put in, done. Like, I mean, I think I could still do this. This would be considered just fan content. Um, but if I don't think I could stream my game. Like I was planning on getting a Twitch channel, going and streaming my game. I don't know if I can do that anymore. I'm not sure what is covered. Like, I'm still not sure. Is Twitch basically not gonna be allowed to stream D&D games anymore? Mm. I was trying to see what the dungeon dudes think, but they haven't addressed it. I don't think so. Anyways, yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to address it. Like I said earlier on, I was saying how I really wasn't sure if I even wanted to. I actually was setting up tonight. I was like going to make a video. And I'm like, if I don't see anything come out tomorrow, I'll release a video where I talk about it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go live because I don't feel like this is something that is just you make a video on. I really feel like it has to be a discussion with people. We just need to be talking about it. And having you guys in here talking and voicing your concerns, I think is so much healthier. And just shows that there are, it's not just me, right? It's not just a couple people. It's a lot of people that care about this. So, yeah, I mean, I just felt like this was the better medium to do. I actually did a TikTok live, I think, a night or two ago, but even though I have more followers on TikTok, I feel like TikTok's a harder platform to keep people watching on. I don't know. It's a weird platform. Like people are in here hanging out and conversating. Where on TikTok, they're like, "Yeah, cool. Like here's a comment. Scroll." So just too easy to move on to TikTok. I happen to have already written antitrust legal action and breach of contract action. That is why I already know. Not my first rodeo. Good, man. Do it. Do it. Michael, 100%. I buy most of my stuff from my party. Or for my party. Yeah, dude. My players are freaking spoiled. All the stuff I buy, and then I'm like, I put up the PDFs on my Google Drive, and I'm like, here's your class options. Like, they don't have to buy crap. I have everything on D&D Beyond, too, because I won. Back when, before D&D Beyond was owned by Wizards, I had won a legendary bundle during one of their live streams, and then I've added some books to it since then. But I have everything, and I just share it with my players. They have their characters on there. I'm like, you have access to every official book, and then any third party books I use, I let them use. I'm like, they're my books. I'm like, here you go, pick your class. I'm sure it's a lot. I mean, a lot of people that are worried about that aren't saying anything at all. Oh yeah. I don't think that the casual player is going to lay out much money to play. That falls at about $5 dice. Yeah, here exactly right. So dice on D&D Beyond, that's the kind of thing that they'll buy. Like you got to give them the shinies. People like vanity stuff. They want fancy dice. What happens to? By the way, what happens to Hero Forge? Is Hero Forge going to be okay in all this? I don't know. I mean, they don't exactly breach any SRD stuff. It's not like they're calling them, they don't call them tabaxi. They call them catfolk and things like that. So I think they're okay. But like, if you want to go on if you're going to use D&D Beyond and use their virtual tabletop, you're probably going to have to get the minis through them. And if you want this hat, you're going to have to buy it. If you want this weapon, you're going to have to buy it. And that's how it's going to be. Digital dice don't roll right. You know what's funny? I'm going to say my dice don't roll right. I crushed it today. So we're playing today, and the barbarian gets on top. There's this like wooden wagon tank thing coming through, and she jumps up on top, and she hits the thing, and then eventually, like, it falls apart, and these goblins come spilling out. I think what happened, and I think I rolled a nat 20 on her, and oh no, you know what? I remember what happened. She got into a bar fight. So after the whole combat, they went to the tavern, and there's bar fights that you can be a part of. Just bare knuckle, non-lethal bar fights, and so she buys in. and everybody's betting on her and stuff. And she gets in there, and I have her up against a guy who actually is a bare knuckle fighter. So he does a little more damage than her. He does a D6 damage, and he crits her. So I end up doing 2d6 plus 3 damage, and I did 14 damage to her out of her 15 total health. And then, so I'm like, you're probably screwed, So she like hit the guy. Then he goes, and I rolled another natural 20. So my dice were on fire today. I rolled really good today. They weren't digital dice though. We were using physical dice today. Nick, I only have one player that's bought Coldwell Press books. Everyone else uses my PDFs. Yeah. The guy that I was talking about earlier that, I play with that he DMs for me, he bought all the Coldwell Press monster books. He loves those. When I first met him, I actually bought my dog from him. His dog had puppies, and I bought my dog from him. That's how I met him. Was I was over there looking at the puppies, and I see a player's handbook on the floor in his office. And I'm like, "Oh, you play D&D?" He's like, "Yeah, you?" I'm like, "Yeah." We started talking, and when I finally, next time I was over there, I'm like, "Hey, if you ever want to play or anything, And he ended up emailing me, and he's like, "Yeah, here's our house rules," and he emailed me a document, and eventually, we started hanging out. But when I went over there, I was like, "Hey, this is the book I was telling you about." I think I brought him like Creature Codex. And he was like, "This is so cool," and he ended up buying it. Now he owns all the KP monster books, and he's obsessed with them. I actually just bought for my birthday. My birthday was New Year's Day. My mom gave me $100 Amazon card, and I bought all of the Cobalt Press monster cards that I didn't have. I had a couple of the Creature Codex ones, and I had Tome of Beast 2, but I didn't have the Tome of Beast 1 or the rest of the Creature Codex ones, so I bought all of those. So now I have both sets, so now I just need to get Tome of Beast 3 when it comes out, which I did not back the Kickstarter for it, so I'll have to wait till it comes out, and then I'll buy those cards. If they're allowed to sell them. What's your favorite levels to DM? I kind of like that level 3 to 8 range. I think is a fun range. Yeah, that's a good range, I think, to DM for. I mean, even up to 10, 12 is fine. I don't care. I really hope to run a 1 to 20 campaign in here. I don't know. I feel like I can just DM for anything. It doesn't really matter to me. As long as you set up your encounters right. Whatever. I'm not too worried about it. I have 1 or 2 Cobalt Press books, possibly more. I have more. I have every Cobalt Press book, and then I have every limited edition version of every Cobalt Press book that has a limited edition cover. I have them all. All the Cobalt Press. The only one I need to get still, I need to get the Occult Secrets one. Is it Occult Secrets, or what is it called? Demon Secrets? I don't know. I have to buy it on POD. You can't buy anything but POD at this point. But I need to get that book. It's like $50. I'll buy it soon, ish. Let's see. Any new news? No new news. So yeah, I think that what we're going to see is if we have to report any earnings over 50,000, it'll take a year, and they're going to start calculating numbers, and then what we'd see in 2024 is them changing that number from 750 to 500 or 400 or whatever they think the right amount is, or maybe 2025 or whatever it is. Once we have to start reporting, we'll see. They'll start changing that number to maximize profits. Stop begging. Oh, bragging. I'm begging for more books. You know which one was a hard one to find? Was Tome of Beast 1. That one was tough. That one and Deep Magic, the limited edition covers on those, hard to find. That took some doing. I actually found someone selling Creature Codex and Tome of Beast 1 together, the limited editions. I needed both, so I went and bid on it. And then one of my friends bid against me. He messaged me. I think that's what he did. He messaged me. He's like, "Hey." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "You know what's up," because he was looking for Tome of Beast 1 also. I was waiting for this. I was hoping you were going to see it. He's like, "I saw it." So we ended up splitting it. So he bought it, and then but I gave him half the money, and I got Creature Codex, and then he helped me track down a Tome of Beast 1 eventually. But I was like, when he messaged me, he was like, "Hey," I was like, "Crap," because we had both been looking for it for a while, and I wasn't gonna take it from him. He practically wrote half the monsters in that book. Um, do your creature codex? Yeah, I got the creature codex pawns. Yep, I got. I don't have the Tome of Beast 3 pawns. I didn't buy those yet. I'm gonna buy them, but I haven't bought them yet. But I have all the other pawns. I have Rise of the Drow pawns coming too. Um, they AAW got some in stock, and Jonathan's sending me some. I don't use pawns too often though. I generally try to do minis, but pawns are great in a pinch, or for traveling if you don't want to carry a bunch of minis. They are nice to have. You just throw them in a little Ziploc baggie and take them with you. Oh man! So anybody else? Anybody else have a thought on this? Because I don't know. I feel like we've said it all at this point, right? Um, but let's do this. Let's see what happens next week. When it comes out, I'll throw a video up. I'm sure about it. Like I'll do a video and say, okay, it's finally out, blah blah blah, and I'll hop on the let's review the OGL 1.1 bandwagon because I mean my channel. Let's face it, my channel is highly dependent on third party content. It's my whole shtick. So thanks, Heath. Um, so we'll get on there. I'm sure Heath will probably make sure you guys. By the way, guys, Heath Geekverse, make sure you go check out his channel as well and sub over there. He puts out some really good stuff. He does like I think you do it like almost daily, right? You do like a live all the time. He's live, so I like live interactions. So definitely go check out his channel. Um, but I'll hop on. I'll do a video and then we will do another live to talk about it because if for no other reason, this is good therapy, man. We can just talk about it and rage together and be mad together and, or maybe be happy and rejoice together if all goes well. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let's just see. I don't want to. I don't want to say I'm in the wait and see camp. I'm in the pissed off camp, but I don't know what I'm pissed off about yet because we don't have anything official yet. Like I said, the fact that it's not out yet, it's supposed to be out in the 4th, means that there's changes coming. Without a doubt, what was leaked, what we saw in the article, there's no way on earth that's the final version at this point. Otherwise, it would already be out. So, and the nice closed tight lips from Wizards. Like, I mean, if it wasn't real, I would have been all like PR would have been all over going, no, that's not real at all. No, that's fake. Like they would have come out and straight up said it. They didn't because it is real. So, or allegedly, I'll say it is allegedly real. That's my assumption. Everything we're talking about here is speculation. I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Yada, yada, yada. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. This is just me. But yeah, we'll do a video. We'll have another live. We'll have some good therapy and venting session together, and we'll keep it going. Also, make sure you follow me at my TikTok. I have a TikTok at DM Toolbox. I feel like with the current events, I have some more stuff to be posting about. So I will try to be on TikTok a little bit more this next week. I did start up my Facebook page. I have a DM Toolbox Facebook page. I have a DM Toolbox Instagram as well now. So trying to do more of the socials. My wife is actually a social media marketing director for a company. So she's like making me do more social media stuff. But I'm trying. So, my Twitter is Toolbox_DM. So I'm on all those fun things. Make sure you check out the channel, check out the videos, some of the reviews, all these products we've been talking about today. I've reviewed most of them. Despite the fact that you're giving Wizards of the Coast a piece of the pie, if you are a Dragonlance fan, I do highly recommend that Tasselhoff Patches of Everything book because it's really good. And if you're going to play Dragonlance in 5th edition, it is way better than the content Wizards just put out. So, I would recommend using that with the adventure, the Wizards adventure, if you did buy it and plan to play it. So, anyways, my opinion. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it affects my channel and other people's channels moving forward. I don't know yet. But like I said, I don't think it's going to affect this kind of thing. I think that this is considered free use kind of stuff. And you guys aren't paying me to be here. Even if I monetize through ad and stuff like that, that's not the same thing. You guys are not paying for my content. So, I believe this is all legit and cool to use. But, if there's no third-party content for me to be reviewing, then I'll have to figure something else out. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. like I said, the sky is not falling yet. Don't panic, but be cautious, be worried, and be mad. Make sure you let Wizards know how you feel about this. Your voice matters, your feedback matters, and if enough of us say it, if we're loud enough, they're gonna have to hear it. And if they don't hear it with our voices, they'll certainly hear it with our wallets. So just stay around, stick around. We'll figure this out, and we'll see what comes next. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. It's late. My wife's probably wondering where I am and wants to go to bed. So until next time, roll those dice.